Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Breezy, warm, sun and clouds in your forecast. High 85. Cloudy, warm, couple of showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Low 67. Currently 73. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
Mike Madigan runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Yeah, Dan and Amy, and that means it's time to talk about all things Illinois related. We'll be joined by Ted Dabrowski momentarily. Interesting new study out. We've talked about the Wallet Hub study before. Tribune editorial board opined on that. Illinois highest combined local and state tax burden in the country on average, 15.01% for the median household income. That's almost 40% higher than the national average. It translates into about $9,500 a year in state and local taxes in Illinois. Compare that to Indiana next door, it's about $7,500. Compare that to Florida, it's about $5,200. And, you know, that money compounds annually. That turns into a couple to $4,000 annually, turns into real money with the compounding. Another study out, though, this is sort of interesting. The financial tech company Self looked by using Bureau of Labor Statistics expenditure numbers to see what Americans were spending each day to work out what taxes they would be paying. This is interesting. So this is lifetime earnings. The percentage of your lifetime earnings you'll pay in taxes by state. And here, Illinois drops out of the number one slot. That's taken by New Jersey. $931,000 in lifetime taxes in New Jersey.
Cow.
For the median household in New Jersey. That's 49.5% of earnings as taxes.
Why? You're giving your money straight to the government. What is it here?
Illinois comes in at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th.
How much money am I going to give them?
$694,000 over your lifetime earnings of $1.6 million. That's 43%. 43% of your earnings as taxes in the state of Illinois. All the way down to Alabama, 24%. In fact, the bottom 15 or so, actually more, probably almost the bottom half, are under 30%, whereas New Jersey, the usuals, New Jersey, Rhode Island, California, Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, Illinois, all over 40%. That's a big difference. Over the course of a lifetime, I told you it adds up. Compare the number one, New Jersey, $931,000, to number 50, Alabama, $322,000. Is $600,000 over your lifetime a lot of money? Yeah, that's a lot of money. Compare Florida to Illinois.
How much?
Illinois, $694,000, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Florida, $378,000. Is, $320,000? Is that a lot of money? Yeah, that's a lot of money. Could you put $320,000 over the rest of your life to better use than Illinois state government? Yes, you could. Actually, it would be almost impossible to put it to worse use. For more on this and other topics, pleased to now be joined by Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoint, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois public policy related. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Amy. That's a nice start to the conversation, right? What a mess.
Yeah. So the Tribune on one study and the Wall Street Journal on another study, and it all helps explain that Illinois exodus that continues unabated.
Well, it sure does. And then, what makes it more scary is that, they're not done passing laws that will make that cost even higher in Illinois. And that's, you mentioned that earlier. But, what the state wants to do, what legislators want to do, and the Senate has already passed, is how to lock in what I would call oppressive public sector laws into the Constitution so that we can't change a lot of the collective bargaining laws and a lot of the costs that go with that going forward. It will be, when you lock in pension costs in the Constitution and then labor powers into the Constitution, you'll never drop these tax rates. They will only go up until until we can no longer afford to pay it and it collapses.
So speak to this legislation that would essentially prohibit a right to work law in this state. I mean, this is unconstitutional, but it doesn't mean it won't pass and have to be litigated. This constitutional amendment that's being proposed and being advanced in the General Assembly, I bet some will argue, all this does is enshrine the right to organize in the Illinois Constitution, a right that people should have. If you want to organize in a private workplace, that's fine. So that's all it does. And so what's the big deal?
Well, yeah, there's two big deals to it. One is, there's 28 states that are right to work states, meaning that you don't have to join a union to be employed. And that's a lot of the southern states. That's where they have a lot of growth, a lot of investment, because companies can set up companies there and not have to worry about forced unionization. Illinois, forces, or you have to be part of a union here. We don't give the workers that choice. The big issue, though, is that, so there's that part, the private sector, but the other big part is when they put this language into the Constitution, it's also protecting all the government unions from any change. So in other words, we will cement or enshrine their right to negotiate wages, hours, and working conditions into the Constitution. And that means, and it's not only that, it says to protect their economic welfare and safety at work. So does that mean we can't close school districts, for example, because that would hurt their economic welfare? It raises massive amount of questions, but for me, the bigger fear is not the private sector angle, but the public sector angle, because then the teacher union, the AFSCME, all those unions will have their powers enshrined and will never be able to change collective bargaining laws, which are already some of the most onerous in the country.
Are there any state lawmakers, Republicans, that are fighting back?
Well, there's a couple fighting back. The more scary part is, when you're looking for reforms in Illinois, this kind of action, making this constitutional amendment, bring it to life, is a Democratic-led effort. And usually the Republicans will be the reformers against it. Well, in this case, in the Senate, 11 of the 18 Republicans voted for it. So, how can they be complaining about the fair map process and all that when they're voting to have these kind of rights enshrined in the Constitution?
DeWitt from St. Charles, Resin from Morris. In the House, you had Keith Wheeler in Kane County, Steve Reich from McHenry County vote for it. Mazzocchi and Elmhurst voted present. That's remarkable. Mazzocchi is an attorney. I mean, she doesn't see the constitutional problem with this. Just the Janus decision alone that it would seem would be implicated by this legislation. Yeah,
they haven't voted in the House yet. It's been in the committee there.
But committee vote, though.
That's right. And so it'll go to the House presumably today or tomorrow, the next couple of days. I think there's going to be a lot of Republicans that go with it as well, that support the amendment. I'm not sure whether they don't understand it, whether they've been told. I think I've heard they've been told to vote with their conscience, vote with their district. But this means there's no delineation between Republicans and Democrats, and there hasn't been for a while.
Right.
But this solidifies that.
Well, the good news is, the amendment has to be voted on by the people, and we had a similar issue with the progressive income tax amendment that people shut down. So do you think they're more likely to shut this down too?
Well, I think you're hitting on the right thing. As bad as it may be that this goes on the ballot, it may be that educational moment that Illinoisans need. They learned about the progressive tax and all the failures of that. Our goal, and many of us opposing this amendment, would be to teach the Illinois public how bad this is, why it's so expensive, why their taxes are so high. Here's another thing that any legislator cannot complain about high property taxes if they support this, and because this locks in high property taxes forever. So the good news is we'll have a chance to educate the public, and hopefully that's would have a similar result to the progressive tax.
The bad news is you've got most of the Republican Party on board, so where's the opposition going to come from?
Well, that's right. It makes the messaging really confusing because it's a bipartisan thing. Let's do it. And that makes it really hard for people to understand.
You know, it's funny to me. We were talking about this yesterday with George Will, talking about, the Republican office holders are afraid of their voters. They don't like their voters because they're Trump voters. They're afraid of them and so on and so forth. Well, it seems to me what you have in Illinois has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with both parties being afraid or just indulgent to the public sector unions. These Republicans, I know who they are, and I know what they're afraid of. They're afraid of Local 150. They're afraid of the trades, and as well as SEIU. You asked me the teachers' unions. They're afraid of them all. And so if they placate the public and private sector unions, then maybe they won't be targeted. Maybe they'll get a little campaign cash. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but what's amazing about that strategy, it hasn't worked in the last 10, 15 years, right? Every time they placate, they end up being a smaller and smaller, or a minority, right? So I don't understand their logic. But yeah, it's placation all the way, and it hasn't worked, and it won't work going forward.
Well, it's just it's because it's every man and woman for themselves. There is no Republican Party, so Steve Reich up in McHenry County just says, why do I need a headache from the operating engineers? I'll just take this vote, take their money. They'll leave me alone, and then I survive as a useless, irrelevant state rep. Deanne Mazzocchi, same thing. Maybe I have greater ambitions. Why do I want to get on the other side of 150? This is going to pass anyway, so I might as well just oppose right to work. I mean, she voted president committee, but it's the same thing. It's hardly clever what she's doing. And, then I don't have to deal with this. And, because there's no pressure going to be brought by conservatives. There's no Republican Party. There's no line that has to be hewed. There's no point to the Republican Party. So I'll just do whatever's expedient for me to survive, to minimize opposition, to minimize pressure, to minimize my headaches, because I can just go to, picnics this summer and Lincoln Day dinners and tout the party line and say Pritzker's bad, and that'll be good enough to buffalo enough people to keep me in my little irrelevant perch where at least I make $75,000 and get a pension.
Well, it does call for leadership again, because you got to wonder how you get a breakdown like this without if leadership had demanded it, would it have held? And we don't know that. But what's clear is that when you get 11, what's that 60% of the Senate Republicans voting for it, then it's over. Let's not forget this. The Democrats love this thing; they're the ones pushing for this. But if we're ever going to change Illinois, it's going to take reform and opposition, and we don't have it right now.
So we got 6 days to wrap everything up, solve all of Illinois' problems. How is that? How are the final days of this illustrious session? And it's nice they had one. I'm just, it's just
I'm
a pleasure.
that they had one.
A pleasure they met. Thank you so much for meeting. But the last 6 days, how does it shake out?
Well, look, Dan, they don't have much to do. They've got a budget to set, in 6 days. We've seen nothing on that. The whole maps thing is a massive mess, and that's going to mess up the horse trading of what goes on. You got this clean energy stuff going on. There's actually a ton to be done, and the fact that we don't even have a semblance of a budget, some proposal, something that the public can see, it means this is going to be that last thing. You get 1,000 pages, 1,200 pages in the last minutes, and then we'll be forced to look at it. And hopefully we'll be able to figure out what's in it, but it'll take us time. But it's going to be a mess.
And the latest and greatest on the cartography in terms of which congressional seat goes, who gets thrown in with who?
Yeah, all that's going through too, right? I mean, they threw up the maps for the local positions, state legislature, on a Friday night, which is
right.
Again typical for how it goes, and we're still trying to decipher that. There's going to be meetings this week to debate it and talk about it, but nobody's going to be happy. But you shouldn't be surprised by the result. It's going to be the politicians that hold power now picking their voters, just like it always has been.
He is Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoint, wirepoint.org. Ted, thanks as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer.